Hi everyone, my name's Janine. Welcome to my Thursday live. So today I'm going to be talking about consciousness and heaven and hell. So first of all, I've touched on consciousness many times. Consciousness covers a lot of different areas, but our consciousness has got different levels, different realms within it. So not only on a dimensional level, as in the third dimension, the fourth dimension, the fifth dimension, the sixth, seventh, eighth, and so on, but on the level of what those other dimensions actually contain within them. Now, there are people out there teaching stuff about what happens when we die, when we pass over, and that we're taken to what we would consider heaven, a heavenly realm, in order for us to get settled in not being in a physical body anymore, to come to terms with what's just happened to us, that we've passed over, and so on and so forth, before we move on to what our spirit is going to do next. But when I look at consciousness, when I experience consciousness on many different levels, not just through being conscious and being aware of what's going on around me, and through meditation and through no mind and so on and so forth. But the more I've worked on myself, my self-refinement, fine-tuning my mind, body and spirit to be able to pick up on, what's actually in the construct of consciousness, people's cubes of consciousness, their subconscious, their unconscious, and so on and so forth. I've started to share information with people about the difference between heaven and hell and the meanings of heaven and hell in relation to consciousness. So I notice when people speak, for example, if they're saying negative things or if they're using bad language, that certain entities, parasites on an energetic level, are drawn to either the swear words or to the negative words or negative thoughts that they're having. And I can actually see these as, on a clairvoyant level, kind of like little negative worms and parasites flying around people. So let's take two different people from two different backgrounds for an example. Let's say somebody's been brought up in a church background connected to some sort of religion, and they've had very loving upbringing with great parents, good family, and they believe in heaven, they believe in hell, and eventually when they pass over, they're taken to a realm in consciousness. Their spiritual soul essence goes to that realm, linked to their belief systems, and if they've led a pretty clean life, they're not going to have a lot of problems in that level of consciousness. They're going to experience something that feels very rapturous. For example, if they're Christians or Catholics or something like that, whatever they've learned in their upbringing is going to be affecting their afterlife in that state. So they're going to be experiencing somewhere that's beautiful, what they thought heaven would look like, what it would feel like, what it would taste like, what it would smell like, and so on and so forth, because that's what's being programmed into their consciousness. Now, if you take somebody else from the same community who has had a difficult upbringing, maybe been abused or subjected to violence, or have got really negative thinking, or maybe even have some kind of addiction, and their body has got a lot of these parasites in it, these energetic parasites, then when they pass over, the frequency of those things are going to be shown to them in wherever they're taken. So they may feel that, they haven't led a good life when they're in the process of, of dying or passing over. And then when they get into the other side, to the other side of the veil in spirit realm, they're taken to a place that feels like hell to them. And it could be not necessarily gnarly, horrible creatures or something like that, unless they've been binge watching nasty movies, you know, dark movies with violence, zombies, lots of murder, lots of negative stuff in, that is going to project into their space in the afterlife when they move over as well. So hell, in the same respect as heaven, is affected by what we've got in our consciousness in our life, and what we've been taught, and what we believe, and what our peers, parents, teachers and so on have shared with us, that this is, you know, what these things are. So hell and heaven is actually a level of consciousness. There are states of mind based on what we've got in our consciousness, what we've accumulated throughout our lifetimes. And this is why it's so important to clean ourselves, to refine our mind, body and spirit in this lifetime, because everything that we're putting into our consciousness is creating. It's all manifesting. The law of projection projects into the world around us, not just when we're alive, but when we've passed over realms and an experience that is based on what we've got within our cubes of consciousness, within our own consciousness. So it's really important that we take care of our consciousness. And consciousness is what's in your subconscious mind. There's stuff in your unconscious mind. There's, you know, there's conscious thoughts that we're having all the time. And this is why it's important to learn some kind of no mind meditation, because when you can go into that space, and not necessarily everyone can forget and block out all of the thoughts that are going on in their head, and that's okay. As long as you can ignore them, you've gone into a peaceful place. You've gone into a space where nothing is having an effect on you, and that's considered no mind. Some people can blank out completely. It's easier for men to do that than women, but women can go into no mind and still be having thoughts, but they're ignoring them. So when we do that, we're clearing. When we go into that no mind space, that's like you're in this huge energetic clean space that's having an effect on your consciousness. And this is why meditation is one of the reasons meditation is so important for us to do. So basically, what as within, so without, that doesn't stop just because we've passed over. When we've passed over what's in our consciousness, we're still going to experience what we've been consuming in this lifetime. And that's not just food and alcohol or drugs or sex or you know anything like that, what we've watched on TV screens or in movies or in violent computer games or anything like that. It's what we've been thinking about, what we've been talking about, what we've been experiencing on the physical level. All of these things get stored in our cubes of consciousness. And as I've spoken about before, our ancestral stuff, intergenerational stuff, is also in our cubes of consciousness. And this is why it's so important at this point, this epoch that we're in at the moment, for us to get into our consciousness, to understand that we've got these cubes of consciousness and that we need to find some kind of way to delete the negative stuff in there and bringing everything into the neutral zone. So it's not about hiding in the light. It's not about just being all love and light all the time, because that means we're holding our shadow side in separation. So that's not getting rid of the dark side of us, the darker side of our thoughts, the darker side of our angers and our unforgiveness and our jealousies and our envy and all of these other things that we may have in this lifetime or previous lifetimes, or that we've inherited from our ancestors that are in our DNA, because DNA is part of your consciousness. So healing your DNA in the respect of the memories that are in there that have been passed on to you and that you've accumulated in this lifetime is super important to your afterlife and where you're going to go from there into possibly your next life, or maybe even a life in the spiritual realms, because it certainly doesn't end when we leave the physical body. The physical realm is for us to come in and experience what it's like to be in this avatar, this vessel we see as a physical thing, when it's not the be all and end all. It's just like a car that we drive around in. Once we leave that, it's not over. There are other things that we need to experience, other things that we get the choice to experience, whether we want to come back into this lifetime or whether we want to experience another realm of consciousness on another planet, say, or something like that. And I know this may sound weird to people if you're new to this, but consciousness is everything. Our consciousness is everything. And we are at the central core of that consciousness. And by the way, if you missed the solstice meditation today, it's been saved in my Patreon channel. So there should be a link below to Patreon if you want to go and experience that. It was a powerful healing and upgrade today. I opened the one portal and we meditated together for 20 minutes. So the energies are pouring in. Today's the 20th of June. The energies are pouring in and upgrading us. This is a time for letting go of the past, letting go of old traumas, healing things that you may have pushed down. People are struggling with things like headaches and brain fog and that kind of stuff because it's the blue ray coming through. I've spoken about this on my other videos. So it's important to think about what you're putting into your consciousness, but it's also important to think about what's already in your consciousness, in your conscious field, in these multidimensional realms and pixels and cubes of consciousness that you may have inherited from other lifetimes. And you're welcome, Val. In other lifetimes, and what you're going to do about it, because they leave an imprint and they are affecting your future, not only in this life, but when you pass over and in your next life, and also affecting what you're passing on down to your children through the DNA and your grandchildren and great-grandchildren and so on and so forth. So those of us that have come to earth at this time and volunteered to be part of what people, the spiritual community call the ascension, which is basically the raising of consciousness of humanity and the planet, because everything is a projection. So if we raise our consciousness, everything around us starts to change. That's why we're here. There are different waves. Some of us are older than others, and there are different waves, different frequencies have come in to help whoever they need to help. And it could be doing something on here like I do, or my Instagram, or what's on my website for people, the online courses and DNA upgrades and healings and things like that. It could be that you're here to write a book. It could be that you're just here to meditate as much as possible and hold that frequency and be resonating that inner peace and that purity from your heart and your higher heart. That could be what your soul purpose is. I get a lot of people asking me what their purpose is. And we've all got different purposes. Some people come to teach, some people to hold energy, some people to observe, some people to experience love and loss, some people to experience forgiveness. So they're going to have a hard journey because that's what they asked. You know, if you want to experience forgiveness, you're going to have somebody come in, like the story I told you of the little soul and the older soul. Somebody's got to come in to give you something to forgive. So we've all got different reasons for being here, but on a collective level, the collective level at the moment is to help people raise their consciousness so that Mother Earth is a higher frequency because she's a projection of our consciousness. So every little thing we do makes a difference. Everything makes a difference. It doesn't matter whether it's just meditating for 5 minutes every day. That's making a big difference. What we do on Patreon is making a huge difference because we come together as a group. So think about what you've got and your family lineage. This is a good time to be letting go of stuff like that. If there's trauma and, you know, if you come from a background where it may be war-torn, for example, you know, there's been war in nearly every society on this planet because of history repeating itself. But when you get to a certain dimensional level, that frequency is no longer going to exist. And as far as I'm aware, it's 9th dimensional consciousness, where there will be no more wars. So things are changing rapidly at the moment, and even the health care is changing. You can see it changing. People are choosing complementary and alternative methods. People are using things like CBD rather than opioids and stuff like that. And people are realizing that there are other options to healing themselves and dealing with the problems that they've got. This blue ray that's coming through at the moment is going to really emphasize mental health issues for people that have been pushing on. And people do. Mental health has always had a bit of a stigma to it, so people don't want to admit to having mental health issues. They would rather try and hide it because of the stigma, and maybe because they're embarrassed and so on and so forth. But most of us go through some kind of stint in our life where we could be labelled as having a mental health problem, because it's not mental illness as in deranged, delusional. You think about the words mental health and you think about people that, and I use the term loosely with love, people that are a bit crazy. That's not mental health. Mental health is feeling anxious. Mental health is feeling depressed. Mental health can be deep sadness. All of these things are nothing to be ashamed of, nothing to hide away from. And we all go through loss. It's part of our journey. I know what it's like to grieve. I've been through a lot of loss myself. Most of you that have been in my academy know about this. So if you have got stuff going on that you haven't dealt with, it's a really important time to start dealing with it, because those cubes of consciousness are not going to go away by themselves. Things don't just go away by themselves. And you can't push things down forever. When there's energy trying to come through your system that's trying to clear your brow chakra, this energy center, which is the third, the mind's eye, the third eye, as they call it in Eastern terminology, the brain and focus and intellect and concentration, and all of these things are affected by it. Then if there are things in there that you've been ignoring, then they're going to get pushed out. The energy is going to either push them out so that you're aware of them, or there's going to be some kind of blockage in the system which can lead to all sorts of things, from cysts to nasty tumours and stuff like that. So it's not a time to be ignoring anything. It's not a time to just think that you can piggyback off everyone else's work, like, well, I'll just let everyone else raise the planet up and humanity up and I'll just ride the wave. It's not as simple as that. We've all got our own consciousness going on. We've all got our own projection of what we see in the world around us. It's mirrored back to us. The mirror never lies. But that's our experience. What goes on the bigger picture is the collective experience. So the more of us that do the work on ourselves, we're moving into the Maharishi effect, and that just 8,000-9,000 people overriding the mass consciousness to bring more light into the planet at this time and raise our own frequencies up, and that's going to change the world around us. That means that the systems out there, education system, healthcare system, military system, space system, all of these systems are going to change, because the projection's different, because we are lighter and purer and more refined. So those things that are out there are going to reflect back to us that higher frequency. So it's a really important time to be aware of your consciousness, to consider what's in your consciousness, what's in your subconsciousness, what's in your ancestral lineage. Do you come from a background where there was a lot of wars, or maybe abuse, violence, mental health issues on a deeper level? All of these things have been imprinted into us. So it's time for us to go within, to really think and analyse what needs to be healed within us so that we're making a difference together. And it doesn't take much. It doesn't take much effort to find out what's going on, to decide and set your intention that you're going to do something about it. If there's a history down your family lineage of some kind of addiction or abuse or something like that, you can be the one that stops that imprint being passed on. You can be the one that changes those memories so that history doesn't repeat itself down the generations. That's how powerful you are. Every single one of you is a God particle, a one particle, a creator particle. Call it what you will. You've all got connection to the whole, to everything. So every little thing you do, everything you attempt to do with the best of intentions is making a difference to the whole. So never ever let yourself think, why should I bother doing this? It's only me, nobody else is doing anything, nobody else cares, because that's not true. In the last few years, I've connected mostly with women all over the world. And they are working. And they've been bringing in that light energy every day when they do their meditations or they just connect to one, to God, call it what you will. The reason I choose the name One is because it includes every religion. They've been doing the work. When I visualize Mother Earth in my mind, it's like all these beautiful shards of white light coming in and going into the core. And the core, that blue core of the planet, is just glowing and it's expanding. It's bringing that high frequency in. And that's coming up through the earth. The earth is starting to bring these energies through, and we're starting to feel it now. So we're bringing what people will call heaven to the planet, but we're connecting the masculine and the feminine together, and that's where the real power comes. One half is not the way forward. So we're bringing in the blue from Mother Earth, and we're bringing in the white or the clear, the bliss energy from what people would call Father, God. I don't like to use masculine, feminine terms, but sometimes it's needed in order to try and express things. But when those two energies come together and spread out, it's having a massive effect. It's rewriting the template of the earth that we live on. Everything blinks in and out of existence at super fast speed. So you've got nothing and then you've got something, nothing, something, nothing, something. It's like this. And it's like those old movies where they were all individual photographs and they put it on the reel, and when you move it faster it looks like everyone's moving, but really it's just individual photographs. I've talked about the 2D things before. So when we bring those two energies together and see that going out, and we're doing this when we're in my Patreon group, we're actually reprogramming not only our own field of consciousness, but the field of consciousness of Mother Earth. And depending on how far out we send out, and we all send those energies out beyond the Earth into the universe, we're actually affecting the universe. That's how powerful we are. That's how powerful you are. So please never sit back and think that you don't count, or your 5-minute meditation isn't enough, because it is. It is enough. But it's still important to get rid of the old traumas that's stored in our system. The sexism, the racism, the war, the greed, the corruption, the materialism, which is the biggest problem on this planet. All of those things are just energy. All of those things are just memories and imprints of people's behaviour from the past. We have the ability to change those programs. They're just programs in a simulator that we experience through our sensory perception. None of it's carved in stone. Your future's not carved in stone. Be cautious of people that are telling you the job is done. You don't need to do anything else. That's not true. It depends on how high you want your consciousness to go. But if you've decided that, or you've been listening to people that say just go to 5D and stay in 5D, then there are still major collective programs and imprints in that level of consciousness that are not pure. So we're moving through 5D, 7D, 9D. You can go as high as you feel you want to go in your consciousness to experience full enlightenment. But it is important that we understand that we need to keep pushing forward to clear the past in order to create the brighter future that we all want. I certainly want to live in a world that's corruption free. We don't have to live in a corrupt world. We don't have to live in a world where people are homeless and starving and suffering from addiction and mental health problems that the current system definitely is not helping very much. We don't need to put up with what's out there. We need to create, we need to manifest what's out there. And we are the software that is manifesting that program. Our consciousness, what we've got in us, what we've got in our DNA, what we've got in our field, is what's creating that new world, the world we're in at the moment. Take a look around. If you're not seeing anything negative out there, well done. If you've still got opinions or still seeing things that bother you, there's work to be done. There's no judgment here. Some people are here to really level up and make a difference, and that's what their spiritual contract was when they came in. Some are just here to experience the shift and observe. But if you are serious about leveling up, I would head for the 9th dimension if you want to end war in your reality, for example. And I would have a look at your background, your ancestors, and the situation around the equality between male and female, and the equality between different coloured skins. Because it's still a massive problem. It's still a massive problem out there. There are still women being paid less for doing the same job as a man. There's still racism going on out there, violent racism. All of these things could be healed. All of these things could be healed at the core of my Patreon channel. But we need to get enough people to come to it in order for that to happen. And if you haven't heard my Maharishi Effect video, it's somewhere in the collection. You might want to listen to that. So today is the solstice and longest day of the year. I hope you've had a beautiful solstice. You can still use the meditation and the healing that's on my Patreon channel at any time. So if you come across this video and you know, after the event, after the live, you can still go to Patreon. I did make today's available for everyone. So thanks for joining me. A big thank you to everyone out there who has been a part of my Patreon, my social media over the last few years, my academy. You guys have made such a massive difference. I'm seeing changes all the time. All the time. Big changes are happening. So thank you. I appreciate you so much. And thanks for joining me tonight. And I'll see you all again. My next Patreon is the 7th of July. I'll see you all again next Thursday at 7 p.m. Pacific. That's my usual time. So enjoy what's left of the solstice. Thanks for joining me, guys, and have a great evening. Bye for now.